Next gentlelady, recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Latta, for 5 minutes for questions.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Secretary. Thank you very much for being with us today. If I could just go back on the line of questioning that Dr. Burgess had, is there anything in the law that says how many members have to be appointed before the board starts functioning?
Not to my knowledge, sir, but I can...
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that, with 15 members, could 3 members actually be appointed and start functioning as a board? Because, and just looking at what the law says here,
I'm sorry, I'm really having a very hard time.
Yeah, it says under the act, it says quorum. A majority of the appointed members of the board shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business, but a lesser number of members may hold hearings. But again, I guess the question is, if you've got only 3 members appointed, can they start functioning as the board? And then actually you could have fewer members of that 3 actually start holding hearings. Is that possible?
Well, I certainly think fewer than a quorum could start holding hearings, and I would think that that outreach function is critically important for any board who's going to make recommendations. I do not... I'd be happy to get you the answer in writing. I don't want to speak outside of the...
Yeah, I'd appreciate that if you could. And if I could just go to your testimony on page 12, you said that the IPAB cannot make recommendations that ration care raise beneficiary premiums or cost sharings, reduce benefits, or change eligibility for Medicare. The IPAB cannot eliminate benefits or decide what care Medicare beneficiaries can receive. Given a long list of additional considerations the statute imposes on the board, we expect the board will focus on ways to find efficiencies in the payment systems and align provider incentives to drive down those costs without affecting our seniors' access to care and treatment. Okay, if they're not going, so what we're saying is then they're going to have pretty much the power of the purse. Would you say that would be the recommendations that they would have in this case, then, that they'd have that power of the purse that say what, if they're not making the recommendations as to what care or that a person would be receiving, but they're going to be able to say how much money is going to be expended? Would that be a correct statement?
I think, Congressman, again, they are recommendations that come to Congress. They are triggered at a point where the independent actuary sets a per capita spending target. Actions have not reached that spending target, so they will make recommendations about appropriate ways to reach that within the bounds of the law.
Okay. So going along those same lines, though, again, if someone has the recommendations of the power of the purse, and they're saying, well, we're going to have to reduce, I've already mentioned a little bit a little earlier in some other questions, how are we going to make up for those doctors and hospitals if their payments are going down? Wouldn't they then have to cut back on the patients they see and the care that they provide?
Well, again, I think, Congressman, I tried to give with Congresswoman Capps an example of the kind of strategy that can yield enormous cost savings without jeopardizing care or jeopardizing the kind of relationship between doctors and their patients. And that's really what's envisioned. I think a fundamental tenet of the current Medicare commitment to seniors and those with disabilities is the ability to choose one's own doctor, the ability to choose one's own care system, and the knowledge that you have benefits that are available to you. That ceases to exist under the plan supported by the House Republicans, and I think that IPAB serves as an ongoing yearly group of experts who are not being paid by the system to make recommendations to Congress, who can act on those recommendations or not.
Well, because again, I represent a rather large area in the state of Ohio, a lot of rural areas that have a lot of community hospitals. You know, they're all very, very concerned about reimbursement. I've got a lot of my doctors that are very concerned about reimbursement, and so, you know, as we were looking at this, you know, they're reading this too, and you know, they read this the testimony about you know, driving down costs and trying to, you know, for payment systems and line provider incentives. They're nervous about on their payment. And Mr. Chairman, I see that my time has expired and I yield back. Thank you.
Chair, thanks.